Friday, June 3rd, marks 100 days of war in Ukraine. Russia's invasion has devastated the country, and still there is no end in sight. While millions have fled, millions more are stuck in cities reduced to rubble. Ukrainian forces are now trying to hold out against the Russians, long enough for new supplies of Western weapons to arrive. For reporters covering the war, the job is always dangerous and sometimes deadly. Joining us is Mathias Heng, a Singapore-born Australian international photojournalist who spent 2 months in Ukraine. Now he's currently in Melbourne. Mathias, you've covered wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but was what you witnessed in Ukraine unlike anything you've witnessed before?
Yes, covering Ukraine was a totally different war from Iraq and Afghanistan. The reason why I say it was so different, I've never seen so many civilians being a target. It was a different war, whereas when I was in Iraq, they were fighting against, the army was fighting against the army. Whereas in Ukraine, civilians were the main target, and civilian residential buildings were also targeted as well. And even journalists were being hit. One of my colleagues who was shooting for New York Times, he was killed. He was shot by a sniper. And so in total, during my time when I was there were about 7 journalists was killed.
Mathias, I'm so sorry to hear about your friend, but what you've described, that the place is dangerous. It is dangerous grounds. What concerned you the most during your 2 months in Ukraine? Do you feel like you were in constant danger?
What really concerned me was the civilians, because as I was mentioning earlier, civilians was the main target for it. When the Russians got into Bucha, they went to houses. If there were men out there, they will interrogate them, question them, strip them, look for whether they've got any tattoos that associate with the Ukrainian army, and so that was quite disturbing when seeing a lot of civilians were evacuating. Many of them were traumatized, and on top of that, while they're evacuating, they're being shot as well. Along Bucha, crossing the border to a safer place, and that was disturbing for me, because that was the first time I see that civilians were being targeted.
Mathias, let's talk about your photos. You took thousands of photos in Ukraine. Let's bring up one of them. Tell us about where this was taken and the circumstances that led you there.
Okay, this was taken in along the border of Eping and Bucha. So these people are from Bucha and Eping. They were evacuating, and they were crossing under the bridge. And the bridge was destroyed by the Ukrainian armed forces. They had to destroy the bridge to prevent the Russian from coming in, or prevent the tanks from coming in. So that was the only way to stop the Russian coming into Kiev. So and while I was there, I heard news that there were thousands of them. That was the only way to evacuate. So I went there, and I witnessed people of all ages crossing the bridge. Even people, elderly people who could hardly walk. They were on stretchers, and when I took this photo, it was a big contrast of their group of volunteers, soldiers carrying a civilian, and then a newborn baby in the pram. So that really sort of hit me. It's life changing.
Let's take a look at another photograph. Tell us about this one, the 3 boys.
Okay, this photo, unfortunately, many children are traumatized, are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So till today, they are still living in underground bomb shelters. So since the invasion, they have not gone out. They're too afraid, because they hear the sound of bombing, shooting. So they're just traumatized. So when I went to this shelter, and those boys, they never smile. And there's one particular boy, he came up to me and he had a toy gun, and immediately he pointed the gun at my forehead. And the mother stopped him immediately, and that really sort of the thing that we all tend to overlook. We always look at the most drastic images of what's happening, but these people are really suffering deep inside, emotionally and mentally. And I think it's so hard to tell in photos. So that was one of my main objective, to try to get a message out. So when I went there, I did whatever I could to bring the story out of these boys, because they really need help.
Mathias, thank you for your sharing. International photojournalist Mathias Heng. Now, he'll be in Singapore next week. You can join him in person over at the projector on June 12th when he will give a talk about the war in Ukraine. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos.